Hey D, just wanted to go over your last sparring session. It's not going to be as detailed as other ones because we're getting so close to your fight. I just want to point out a few things that you could quickly work on to help you get ready for your fight. So we're going to go kind of right into it. One thing I noticed is a couple of things. There's a couple of things I noticed, but the first one is that you kind of use your jab strictly for measuring, meaning that you kind of stick it out, you show it, you use it to distract, you use it to figure out your distance, but you hardly ever use your jab as a weapon, meaning like you really try to land with it and you try to hurt somebody with it, or not hurt somebody, but stick them with it, you throw a more solid jab. You don't really do that too much. So that's one of the things I think you definitely could improve, and we'll talk about it a little bit. Uh, but that's one thing. I don't think you're using your jab completely. And we'll show you. I'll talk about how you measure yourself a lot by just sticking it out there and not using it as a weapon. And we'll use kind of some examples with Margarita. Uh, Second thing is that uh, you're not stepping in. Your right foot's still a little bit back, and I think the best way to correct it is to start thinking about stepping in and more a little bit closer to the opponent so that you could make sure you drive the right hand in, like you get in closer, because that's going to help set up your other punches. But other than that, I mean, I was looking at the sparring. Obviously, you're throwing a lot more punches, and that's idea is to get you into shape. Also, like I always tell you, sometimes you go to a fight with all the strategy and plans in the world, but just a war breaks out, a fight breaks out. You always got to be prepared for that, and you're going to get in the best shape by punching a lot. Once again, you're not fighting someone like Margarita. You're fighting a shorter left-handed fighter, so it's going to be different. But we're going to get into it. I just want you to keep an eye on how you use your jab and how you just kind of measure with it. You're not using it as a weapon. And I want you to see when you throw your right hands, how you kind of have your foot further back. So that's something that we could definitely work on in the next week or so. But let's get into it right now. So you can see you use your jab mainly for measuring. And this is just to show an example of how you have your right foot back there, how you both kind of catch each other with the hook because you're not really stepping fully completely in with the right hand. But watch how you're just measuring, measuring, measuring. This is a good example that when you go into the body, even though you landed a solid right hand to the body, because your left foot's way back there, you're locking yourself. Watch even if you land the right hand to the body, look how you widen up. You're vulnerable, and that's why I'm kind of worried about you getting that wide stance. Because even if they hit you with a bullshit shot to the neck or not even that clean, you're gonna lose your balance. And I'm just worried about you maybe getting a cheap knockdown. So I want to definitely work on that. But as I was stating, you measure with your jab, which is good. We do teach that, but you have to start stepping in with it to try to land it. When you do step in with a harder jab, you back her up, and then when you get her on the ropes or closer to ropes, that's when you do your best. I think I only showed slow motion in the first round with this girl. I didn't want to go into too much detail with slow motion, waste a lot of time. I think I'm just showing right here how you just poke with the jab, and you're kind of, outside your distance, and that's why you're missing with the right hand. And I know that usually in the first round, everyone kind of measures each other, so it kind of works like that because you're trying to get your timing. I wanted to show this because this to digress a little bit to a different subject, but I'm glad that you used this shield that Carlos is always talking about to throw that left shield in her. So you see how she backed up against ropes and you got dominant position on her because she can't go anywhere. So I'm glad that you finally used the shield, because you do use the shield here. Look at to get in safe, and then look at the nice body shot. Boom, nice hook up top. And she's all spread out, so that's why she goes rocking back. But I just seen a pattern of you're not really throwing your jab for power or to, like make it a weapon. And you're going to have to start doing it. Sometimes if you step, and what I'm thinking is, I'm going to pause it real quick. What I'm thinking is, if you keep going like this and like this, and they know you're not throwing a hard jab, they're not worried about it, they could key on your right hand. they could jump back, they could put a shield, they could slip, they could do whatever because they know like, okay, this is like your warning, your warning, your warning. So sometimes you got to mix up that warning and feint with it, and then you have to actually step in and make sure either that's with a single jab with the long step, or a feint and a double step in, or whatever it may be, double jab in. But that's jab has to land sometimes. So this way, when they get hit, they're gonna respect it, and then they'll start to take more exaggerated dips and slides, and then you can step in. My idea is that you should be able to get in and then drive the right hand. I think you do it a couple times here. I'll show you when you do it right. Because how you measure, it's a perfect example. When you throw the jab out there and it's this lady's using it for measuring, it's very easy for them to know the right hand's coming, and it's easy to get away from it because they're not really worried about the jab so much. They know that it's setting something up. I'm pretty sure there's a couple nice 1-2s you throw that at, like right there. And that's good that you caught her with that. And you did step in a little bit. You saw you're more aggressive with your jab. But once again, you got to be careful because I think that since you're not stepping fully in with the jab, it causes you to have a wide stance, and look how you're coming up square. And even though you did land a good right hand right there, I want you to start practicing getting in a little closer and driving that right hand in there with your right leg further up in a shorter stance. And I noticed that when you like chase her down, your stance isn't as wide. Later on when you start chasing her down, and you'll notice your right foot's closer underneath you, that you do a better job. Like right there. So you get closer, boom. Even though you still have a little bit of a wide stance, and we're going to work on, I think a drill we're going to work on is the one we're working on the other day. When you step in to concentrate on bringing your right foot up before you throw the right hand a little bit. That will definitely help help you correct keeping that right foot all the way behind you. I think there's another good right hand where you hit her. I think I showed in slow motion. Right there. I think that was, I knew it was coming up. And I see one of the things you could take away being countered is it's easy to get countered when you don't throw a hard jab sometimes. So what happens is when you measure in yourself, even though you beat her to the, you kind of beat her to the punch and land a little bit more solid, she was still able to get off her right hand. That's why I think you need to sometimes get in there with that shield, get a little bit closer, and then step in with a hard jab and make sure it lands. I like that you're adding the left hooks, though. That helps out. Like lead left hooks. I think you do your best when you're flowing and you're punching and you're leading with the fist, that you're first to punch. And I don't think I do any slow motion after this, but I like that lead right. That's what I want to see, but I like to see you follow it up more with a hook. I think this is where you start to stalk her more. And you tend to have less of a wide stance when you start stalking. But you still, you're still keeping a little bit behind you. That's a nice one there. Now, even though you landed, I still think you would have a better right hand, land a better right hand, is if you brought your right foot up. See how that long that stance is? You're about, what, almost a foot from her face when you land, when that jab goes fully extended. And what happens is, in order to reach it, you have to dive. And that's what I'm a little worried about. We could definitely correct that. That was nice right hand there too. I think I showed this on a replay. I'm not sure. But you definitely look better when you're skipping in. You got rhythm. I think once we add that jab landing, like making sure you concentrate on and getting it closer to the opponent's face, that you'll have a way better, have more success landing the combinations with more power. Way to stay on her though. That's what you want to do. That was nice right there. So the thing is, we're going to definitely work on it. I'm going to figure out how we're going to do it. Is when you throw your combinations, look how wide your stance is. You see that? That's what we're going to have to correct. I think if we practice maybe dragging that right foot up as soon as when you throw the right hand, I think that'll correct it. It's not the perfect way to do it, but I think it's better than staying with a full leg spread out like that. That's good distance there. I think I put a replay here. This is I like the fact that I don't mind when you measure your jab like that on the ropes a little bit. If this is what you're trying to do, get her to get in a bad position. I just would love for you to get your feet a little bit closer so you can, not have your face exposed when you get that wide stance. So like right there, I thought that was a good opportunity. This is an example of when you did you're jumping in, your one, two, your forward, backwards, your step, you're jumping in. There was a perfect opportunity. It's coming up next to throw to 1-2, like right here. Watch you when you walk her back to the left, and you're in and out. 1-1. It should be right there. 1-2. But you took too long. And you let her get off. I want to see you start throwing 1-2s from that type of bouncing, and then stay in. Like that. That's exactly how I want you to do it. Bounce in and out. 1-2. Boom. And then next time, follow up another 1-2. Hit her with a flurry of punches. 1-2, 1-2, 1-2. That's another good example when you lead with the left hook. If you bring that right foot up, it'll be so much more powerful, and you'll be able to continue the combination. You just got it a little too far behind you. That's nice right there. Way to put the pressure. Good shield right hand. And we're going to work a little bit so when you go in, you're not so head down. Like you did a good job right here. I'm going to back it up a little bit. You did a good job right here, but the problem is when you went to attack her and put some pressure, you put your head down. You're doing a good job showing the shield. See? Boom. All I got to do is step in with shield, but not drop the head so much. Looks like she pushed you down, but you don't want to get that head down. Now, when you spar with Margarita, we'll go over it. I want you to see when you spar her, you're less aggressive, obviously, because she's a little bit more crafty and she changes angles. But one thing I want you to notice, and it's the second big point, the first two things is that we talked about when you sparred the little girl was you're throwing that jab just purely for measuring. Sometimes you got to step in and then power that jab up to make sure it lands. You got to hit people with solid jabs every once in a while so that they respect it and they'll be worried about that jab. Because if you're always measuring it and putting it out to measure, they're going to use it against you and measure you. And Margarita's pretty good at that when she does that with you. The second thing is not bringing your right foot up, and you see how it keeps you spread out, and you sometimes get straddled and stuck there. That's the first two things. But with Margarita, the next thing I want you to notice is you're less aggressive with her. You watch her a little bit more. Obviously, because she's a little bit more crafty and she angle changes. But watch her, and you could use the same thing in your mentality. Margarita uses the jab a lot and angle changes, and she's a little crafty to create her distance and to set up her combinations. But when she decides to throw a combination, she goes in with a combination. Like, you'll see it. She'll go in and it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. She's throwing 4 or 5 punches, 3, 4, 5, 6 punches, and she'll keep them going. So when she goes in, she's being more aggressive and throwing, more than 2 or 3 punches, and that's something that I think you definitely could copy for her and use to your advantage when you spar people. Another thing I want you to watch with her is that there's times where you'll see that she throws a really hard jab. So sometimes she says like, okay, I need to establish and hit somebody with a jab. Or even if she misses, she wants you to know that she's throwing it hard. And you'll see it. She'll kind of bring her shoulder back and she'll, boom, pound it in. I think those two things would help you out because she uses it against you sometimes. So let's take a look. This is what I'm talking about. She uses her craftiness to angle change. But you'll see when she decides to go in, she's going in aggressively with punches. Like, you see, like here, like it was like about 8 or 9 punches. This count: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. See what I'm saying? She's thinking of multiple punches, not just getting stuck in one spot. She just keeps putting the pressure on. And you're throwing these measuring jabs, and it's helping her gauge her distance on you. So when you throw those measuring jabs, you're not using it as a weapon. She knows how far you are away, and that helps her establish her distance. And see right here, you had a good little rhythm, and you actually landed some punches. When you land punches, take the time. Like, you did a good job. You're moving around and you're flowing a little bit. And then you actually landed, I think, a 1, 2, and you landed one of those punches. And when you landed it, you kind of eased off. You didn't regroup yourself, put your fist in front, and keep putting the pressure. You'll see that when she hits you or puts pressure on you and you lose your form, she'll stay on you. You need to start picking that up also. Watch. Look at right there. And then you should be getting right back on her, punching again. So how she keeps putting the pressure, because she knows she's got a little bit of an advantage. She's going to keep up the pressure and controlling the distance. And let me show you that again. And I'll show you how you could use it yourself. But take a look. She's being crafty, trying to get her angles and distance. You do a good job, but you lay off of it a little bit. You stop punching, as aggressively and she picks it up a little bit. You're kind of going into a defensive mode. That was that power jab I'm talking about. Sometimes she stiffens up the jab. You saw she's kind of being just a little more active. What you could do in those situations yourself is, as the shorter opponent, your big advantage is that as a shorter opponent, you should be able to get off combinations on the inside. So what I suggest you do is when she picks it up, rather than trying to block your way out and backing up, which she just encourages her to keep coming forward and leaning back and keep firing and keeping you bobbing and weaving on the defensive, is sometimes you got to just shield, get in there, and then start firing 2, 3, 4 punches. Not killer punches. Boom, boom, boom. So she knows that you're firing. So that'll discourage her from being as aggressive and trying to keep control of you. Punching back is one of the best defenses that you could have. And you'll see from the sparring, a lot of times when she picks it up, you're trying to back out and figure out how to get away. Sometimes that's where you fight, shield, roll, angle change, touch, and then fire back. So this way you take away her rhythm. Good body shot right there. So right here is a perfect example. You did a really good job with a right uppercut, left hook. Watch. Boom, boom. Right there is where you should elbow chuck and start bam, 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 and pick it up, because she squared after you hit her, but you just kind of let her off the hook. You did a good job. This is where I said you got skills that you could do things a lot of other people can't do. That's a pretty advanced move, to roll under with a right uppercut to the body and throw a hook. You've actually did it and it landed. You just let her off the hook and you didn't continue punching. Right uppercut, hook, and you see it. You stick with the jab and you go back to being a little defensive. I know you're a little winded here. I can see a little bit, but that's okay. That's what you have to get in shape for. And this is what I was talking about. Sometimes when you lose control of your rhythm, or you feel like she's taking control of the situation, instead of backing up, sometimes you just close the distance, go forward and close the distance and fight on the inside, get a clinch. Because a lot of times when you start getting work, she'll clinch you. Like right here, she didn't clinch, but what she did was she pushed you. Watch. When you got control on the inside, because she's doing her work right here, you decide, okay, I'm going to pick it up and fight back. Watch. Boom, boom, boom. She's pushing you on around the head, stiff arm you. You got to start doing the same thing rather than just sit there and block him. Also, I like to see more 1-2s from this situation. Boom, boom, and coming in. Not with the hook only. So I like the fact that you're fighting back here, but you're just not as active as her. So I'd like to see here is you're doing a good job measuring, but you're staying at the outside distance. You never once stepped in with a power jab to try to set up the right hand. You're staying you're playing a jabbing game with her, and she kind of out jabbed you there. Watch. A shorter person has to get the angle and step in with the jab aggressively. Up jab, come up with it. You're staying on the outside, and she's landing the outside punches. Also, too, I would like to see you moving around more. Not running, but moving around, angle changing, trying to be catch her more by surprise. Right now, you're kind of fighting her game a little stationary. I know that you're getting used to this. I think sometimes you go a little too orthodox. All we want you to do is when you're moving around to make sure your hands are in front of you. Don't get sloppy. A lot of times you get your bounce going, but there's no 1-2s being fired. You bounce, bounce, and you just fire a jab. And she knows, okay, I better watch out because she's picking it up. But you never deliver it. I always think you're at your best when you're firing combinations. And I kind of have an idea on how we're going to work on this for the next time you spar with Margarita. Specifically how to get your punches off. That's another good right uppercut to the body. And when something works, you should be firing it overtime. Look at this video when you landed that right uppercut to the body. I think it was both times she was coming in. I think you got to throw that more often. Look at the video later on and see how many times you've landed it and try to repeat that. When it works, just keep working it. Good right hand there. You just kind of let her off the hook. But I like the way the fight you got right here. Boom, nice right uppercut again. If I'm not mistaken, when you're landing that right uppercut is when you guys are trading. So that might be a punch that when you know you're trading, instead of trying to go up top, sneak that right uppercut to the body. This is the kind of work you need. I'm gonna pause it right there, just so you understand, so there's no confusion. And I think we talked about this, and I forgot. I should have mentioned this in the beginning of the video, but I think you need to understand this. We're going on the road. this girl's paying for the fight. I'm worried, and Carlos is worried, and my dad's worried that you're not going to get a close decision. And if you think about it, every time you've talked to us about past fights in your career, whether it's at nationals or on the road or even your last other fight, whatever fights are, you've talked about times that you felt that you won and you got robbed. We're going into this fight assuming the same thing. It's probably even worse in this scenario, that the chance of getting robbed. Someone's paying for the fight. Who knows what she's paying, if she's paying on it. Obviously, they picked this fight for a reason, and we have to be careful about it. So we're trying to avoid a situation where you may slightly outpoint her and you think you're being slick and all that, but that's their way to rob you. Unfortunately, when you go on the road and you're the B side, if you want to call it that, you have to be aggressive. You have to get the attention of the judges. You have to land more. We're not saying to go in there and brawl and fight sloppy, but you definitely have to be the way better offensive fighter. You have to land clean shots. You have to limit the number of clean shots you get hit with. You don't want your head jerking back. You don't want it to be stumbling. You want to get rid of it. You want to do that to her. So that's why we've been trying to get you in really good shape, getting you used to trading and doing these certain things, because I think that if you go back fighting your old style, even if you technically would have win a close decision, you're going to probably lose a close decision, and we'll be talking about the same story. You'll be talking about the same story, saying, oh, I got robbed, I should have won. That's what happens. So we got to plan for that, and that's what we're doing right now. I know it's kind of frustrating sometimes, and remember, you're not fighting Margarita. I see what you're doing with the smaller girl, and that's kind of what I'm looking at, and that's what I'm paying attention to when you spar. We're going to get some shorter dudes in there to spar, the lefties. And here, when you're really aggressive, so your aggression level and your speed, and you're fighting off your flow and your rhythm, you do so much better with the smaller girl. I just think you're more confident with her. I think with Margarita, you watch her a little too much, and she's kind of leading the dance. And we'll talk about that in detail on how to counteract that. But as you see with her, you're firing combinations. You see it? You're firing. And with Margarita, you don't fire as much combinations. You fire in a more defensive. After she hits you once or twice, then you start to fight back. With this girl, you're setting her up, and you're trying to set up multiple multiple punches. That's more of a mindset. See how you're coming in with 3, 4, 5 punches? And with Margarita, it's more of your reactionary. You're letting her dictate, and then you kind of react. Even when you hit this girl, you're quicker to jump right back on her. Whereas with Margarita, you're expecting something, and I think you're expecting something that's not really going to come. It even looks like you have a shorter stance when you spar with this girl. Your stance looks better. So your the starting stance is shorter, see it? You got to take that same stance, the same aggression, the same quick reactions, the same rhythm when you spar Margarita. Obviously, Margarita makes it harder, but mentally, I don't want you watching Margarita and thinking about her too much. You got to think about what you're setting up. You've been sparring with her kind of long enough to know what she's going to do to react to it. This is the speed you should be sparring with Margarita at. If you just get your hands up a little bit, it'll be a lot easier. There, like that, right there. Come in with your hands up. The same bounce. You could come in just like that with your hands up. Discourage her from looping anything. Get those hands up. Don't bring that face in. That's the key. I like to see you double jab, trying to land that second jab, and then throw the right hand. Instead of one jab and trying to hit her from long distance. The right hand to the body. That's a good punch for you there. Right hook to the body. You've landed on both her and Margarita. Nice right there. Got this girl in the run now. She's trying to pick it up on you. Last stand type of thing. Good body work. Ooh, you hurt her there. Little slappy. Okay, I mean, just review this. Keep the four things that I talked to you in mind. The fact that you only throw measuring jabs. The fact that you leave your right foot behind you. You're not, bringing it in when you throw the right hand. The You're not coming in with aggressive combinations, and sometimes, especially with Margarita, you're kind of just watching her. I think if we work on those things, no matter who you spar with next, I think it'll be better. I think now we're gonna kind of accelerate it past the point of just the focusing on the pure form. We've made some form changes enough already. It's more about picking up the intensity, making sure the hands are here, angle changes, and getting that right foot up before we start punching. I think a lot of that will change everything for you and make it a lot better sparring sessions. So I'll see you tomorrow.